as well as YouTube. And I appreciate y'all tuning in. For the last couple of days, we've been talking about the topic of triggers and how they impact our lives. And I want to continue that today because I think it's an important topic. Because with all of us and throughout our lives, there will be events and things that take place that will trigger us. I read a book a while back. I never finished the book, but in the process of reading this book, this is kind of what got me really interested in this topic. And this book was, what was this book called? What was the book called? God, I don't know why I just went blank that quick. Oh my God. Oh my God, I went blank for a freaking second. Hold on. I forget the name of the book. Whatever. Bottom line, I'll remember the name, but I don't know why it slipped my mind that quick. But long story short, I ended up when I read the book again, which I forgot the title of, and I got to edit the front of this video. The book was the type of book it talked about healing ourselves and how we go through trauma. And part of what happened was it talked about when people go off and they're in like the armed forces and they're part of the military and things like that, and how that many times when people go off and they're part of these services, the armed services, that a lot of times there's a lot of trauma that takes place within people's lives based upon, those events that took place while they were away. And part of it is based upon the things that they've seen. The book is called Your Body Keeps the Score. That's what it's called. Your Body Keeps the Score. And in this particular book, the author talks about, that, people don't realize that whenever people go away and they're in the military, they're in, even this could be even included as far as police or people that are in these type of occupations, but especially people that are in military, because of the prolonged periods of seeing a lot of traumatic events that take place. What happens with these people is that it changes them. It puts them in a state where they're constantly in a place of they're on high alert, and they call it they're in a plate of high vigilance. They're like super vigilant in everything that they do and everywhere that they go, because they're always on a search and on the lookout for something, some kind of an event that's going to come into their life, which is going to bring some type of harm or some type of difficulty to them. And it's based upon, because they were in the service and they had to be on high alert at all times at that point because of where they were, because at any point, they were the level of stress and because the fact that they could have passed at any time. And I'm talking about that is because when you look at the triggers that happen in our lives, based upon trauma, there will be triggers. Triggers and trauma, they're like married together. If you go through a traumatic experience, which is some kind of emotional eruption or some kind of emotional disruption that takes place within your life, you're gonna have some type of trigger from that, because when we go through this trauma, it's going to affect us emotionally, mentally, physically, but also our physiology, our body. It affects us, and because of the effects that we're going to act, we're going to react accordingly. So when you look at the definition that we came up with, trauma is the event, or it's an event of distress that changes you in a way. So when you look at these events that take place, it's part of the process of that person being changed from how they were. That's why they say when people come back from these services and these different tours, that they're not the same person. How could they be the same person? Because the things that they saw, the traumatic things that they saw. It's one thing to watch something on television, but it's another thing to actually be alive and you're walking past, different, situations that are very, very severe and very, very serious. Our minds weren't made to see these type things or to be able to. And so because of that, and then Dr. Jordan talks about that, even when we, as people, we are able to handle certain levels of trauma and certain levels of difficulty. But when things are too much, because at some point, sometimes, and depend on where you are, some things are too much. And if you're in sustained, because there's, when you go through one event, that's like an acute, they would consider that like an acute trauma, where it's basically one event and you just see something or a car accident or something that happens, but you're able to move on from it. But if it's like multiple things, then that's when there's a lot of damage that takes place within us. And part of the reason why I talk about that there has to be a total and complete healing is because the trauma happens in different parts of us, our physiology, like our physical, our mental, our spiritual, emotional. It happens throughout all of us. So to me, you can't just heal the person's thoughts or deal with where they are with their heart. You got it and this is why the things that you do as part of your healing, it has to be about your whole body, about your mind, about your spirit, about your energy. That's why one of the first things that I was going to talk about tonight is, the 4 things that I think that are important as you go through your healing. And these are the things that I jotted down earlier that I was thinking about was the first thing is your spirituality. When I was going through my personal healing journey, because I had a level of spirituality which looked like I had certain practices and certain things that I did. One of the reasons why I don't tell people what they should do or try to dictate to people what they should do as far as their spirituality is because whatever you have, if it's working for you, my mindset is keep doing it. If it's working for you, keep doing it, because the main thing is that you have to have something that you're doing where you're able to reach this spiritual connection, whether it's prayer, meditate, whatever it is. And some people will be more on the Christian or that side, and then some might be more on the spiritual side, and some might be Islam, whatever the belief is. But if the belief that you're in worked and has gotten you to this point, to me, stay with it. Because of my spirituality and the spiritual side that I was in, because I transitioned from more of a, I would say, Christian side over to more of a spiritual side. And that's why when you hear me talk about this, I talk in terms of, I look at more of a relationship, because I needed, when I was in my greatest need, all the doctrine stuff, and I said it before, it didn't matter. It didn't matter about what someone ate, what day they worshiped, how many, if they believed in this, whatever. None of that stuff mattered in the time when I was in my most severe time and I needed help from a spiritual perspective. None of that other stuff mattered. The only thing that mattered to me was I needed to know that I could get in touch with that spiritual realm. I needed to know that I could get in touch with God. And so part of that is for me, the spirituality part was an important part, because that's where my basis of prayer was initiated and was instituted into me when I was a child. My parents taught me as a child to learn that I was taught how to pray. So when I was in my difficulties, and that's even like when I talked about last Friday, after having that dream Thursday night, the first thing I did when I got up out of my bed and I saw the actual severity of the dream and where I was and how I needed help, because I was triggered by something based upon a dream. I was being shown in a dream that I needed to work on a part of me based upon this dream. And so the first thing I did, based upon this being a part of who I am, part of how I'm made up, is I went right down in prayer. And I talk about it all the time. My prayers are prayers that I cry out. I reach, I cry out, because I came from more of a Pentecostal, and I'm gonna use that term general, as a Pentecostal style background. So the spirit and all those things are things that I was used to being around. And so with that being said, your spirituality is critical, because your spirituality to me, or the spirituality to me, was the base that I'm so glad that I had and that I needed, because it gave me a base to get started. And this is all I'm saying. It was a root. It was a foundation. It was a footing. It was a place where I could plant my feet, because it was part of what I knew. It was part of what I believed. And the thing that made it so much more powerful is because I had just studied with a group out of India, and I talk about this often. And I studied with this group for maybe a couple of years, because I was learning. This is when I was starting to learn different breathing techniques, and I was starting to learn certain meditations and things like that. And so what happened was, when the events started happening, I was able to take the prayer that I had was taught from my spiritual religious background and tie that into this new, more spiritual background of the meditation. And so what it allowed me to do is I started getting answers a lot quicker, to the point that I would be asleep and I would wake up. And as I was waking up out of sleep, I would hear certain things as I was waking up audibly in my ear. Because all of this, throughout this process, I started realizing that this was all part of a process of me waking up to who I actually was, because I was asleep. I wasn't aware of what I was really put here to do. So the negative thing that happened, the divorce and the whatever, and I won't get into all the details, that was part of the trigger to get me to move to the next place. My spirituality kept me kept me in a grounded place. This is why I listen to certain music, whether it's gospel or something that's something that keeps me in that. And so Renee was talking about earlier, oh, your energy's high. You have to keep your energy high, because your energy, your emotion, where you are, where you are, how you feel, your thoughts. All that stuff is the most critical part of you getting through whatever you're in, because that's the part that's going to keep you, because you're not going to always have other people around. You have to have a certain part of you that you're able to motivate and fire yourself up without anybody else saying anything to you. So that starts with your practices. So this is part of why I'm sharing this is, you have to find a spiritual practice that's working for you. Something that's going to get you through your most difficult times. Something that's going to give you the strength to keep fighting. When you feel like you can't go one step further, something that's going to give you the strength to say, you know what, I'm going to get down and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do what I need to do. And see, prayer to me is part of a release. I'm able to get stuff off of my heart, off of my chest. And then meditation is part of sitting in a place of expectation that I'm going to receive a revelation. I'm going to receive the answer to what I just asked. That I was no longer in the place of being ignorant, from an ignorance of just praying and jumping and running off to and living my life and not really understanding that, you know what, maybe if you sit in silence and just say, you know what, I'm grateful for the revelation, for the answers that I need concerning whatever I've asked. I'm in a place of expectation. I am grateful and I'm thankful. Whenever I'm saying an affirmation or I'm affirming something, I say I am grateful and I am thankful for X, Y, and Z. I'm not asking for it. I'm not debating it. I'm not wishing on a star. I'm saying that I'm already giving a praise and a thankfulness for what I already believe is already done. I'm grateful and I'm thankful for A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Take it. If that works for you, take it and use it. It works for me. So after my spirituality, you got to look at your spirituality. My spirituality was part of the thing that kept me neutral as far as my emotions was concerned. Because the second part that I had to deal with was my emotions, because of all of this, the ups and downs. When you're in a stage of grief, you're going to have a lot of highs and lows. It's going to be ups and downs. But the foundation of my spirituality kept me in a solid place where I wasn't as much this. And so and this is why I talk about some of the things that I did. The first part I did prayer and meditation. The second part for my emotions, where I was emotionally, I know that I needed based upon something that popped up on my feed and I started reading some things. I said, you know what? I'm already working out, but now I'm starting to see why I'm supposed to work out. I ended up reading a document. It was talking about, serotonin and this, that, and the other, and all these things that's released in your brain. And of course, it's not, and how that you can do certain things, and it's not serotonin, but I'm just saying there were certain things that endorphins is released, and I'm looking at this stuff and I'm reading this. I'm like, what? I did a lot. When I look back, there were a lot of things that happened and that I did unconsciously. I didn't know that I was supposed to start working out. I didn't know that by doing that, I was going to increase the endorphins in my brain. So I was going to be activating a part of my brain, which was going to keep my emotions more regulated, which is what I needed, because I was like this. When you've been through something, you've been with someone for years, not for 2 years. I'm talking for decades. And you've been with this person and you went on dinners and you went on vacations and you traveled and you took the car out on weekends and on cruising and the convertible down Atlantic City. You did all these things. You got all this stuff in your mind from years of being with this person. All of these memories that's in your mind from you and that person. And now you and that individual are no longer together. Now you're alone. And regardless of how tough many of us think we are, if you've been with somebody, there's a part of you that has to have you have to resolve the issue of you and that individual no longer being together. Let's be honest. Let's stop with all the toughness and all the facade. I don't need nobody. That's not true. You do. We do. We are made to need other people. That's the way we're made, y'all. Let's be honest. Part of healing is being honest. And yeah, you might not need that individual, but there's somebody that you need. Whether it's your mother, your father, your child, another lover, you need somebody in your life. It's the way we're supposed to be part of community. It's part of how we grow and we expand and we flourish, because we understand, because I get motivated by you get motivated by me. It's like, yo, bada bing, bada bang. Stop playing with me. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's important. We like that validation, I was one to always say, oh, I don't need nobody. Man, screw them, tough guy, But it's not true. It's not true, because when you meet somebody, it starts bringing back the revelation that you do need other people. If you meet a person that makes an impact in your life, a person that makes you start just thinking about how positive it is to be around other people because they're good people, it's going to change you the way you think. We can't, this is why I'm talking about triggers. We cannot allow the past experiences to dictate how we're going to feel about the remainder of our lives. This is why our healing is so critical. Because if we don't heal, then all we're going to do is relive our past events. Every time something comes up that's somewhere near similar to the past event, we're going to be triggered. We're going to be activated. We're going to be automatically activated. We're going to respond from an emotional place. That's why I used the example yesterday about those women that they call the Ks. They call them the Ks, where you see them out in public and you see them in airports and you see them all over the social media, and they're acting real crazy and they're real angry, and they're real belligerent. Why? Because they haven't learned how to regulate their emotion, that they're so triggered that they allow some kind of outside external event to take place. Because triggers are based upon either something external, but it's also based upon, us internally, something that maybe we haven't dealt with internally. So some type of outside event that someone did, they maybe said something a little nasty to them, or they snatched something from them, or they didn't give them something that they want. Because a lot of times they're just big they're temper tantrums that adult women are having, and it's sad. And all it is not being able to regulate that emotion. Their husband can't talk them down off of that. The cops can't talk them down off of that. Because what? Because in their mind, they are right. At what cost, though? What's the cost? What is the cost? That's what I would ask. So emotionally, regulating our emotion is very, very critical as you go through your healing, because you're part of the healing that has to take place is you have to heal from an emotional level, because your nervous system is damaged. Especially if you were with a person that is in the energy or in the behavior of a narcissist, your nervous system was damaged because of all the manipulation and all the deceit and all of the second guessing yourself and not believing in who you are, and not and part of it also is your self-image, how you look at yourself. You might not look at yourself as positive anymore, or look at yourself in a good light because of all of the mental abuse that has taken place emotionally. And I can go into more detail with this, but I mean, I've already been almost 17 minutes. Physically, that's what I talk about. Psychologically, your mindset. What are the things? Also, part of the mindset part is, what are you reading? What are you placing? What are you putting yourself in? As far as what environments are you placing yourself in? What are you listening to as far as podcasts, or what are you listening to as far as even music? When I was in my early stages, there's certain, this is part of when I tell people all the time is that I didn't watch TV. That's like even the other day, Tuesday, when I came back from vacation, I ended up watching a lot of news, and I watched it right before I got on this live. And that was the worst thing I ever did, because even though I'm not a political person, I started talking about that stuff because that's the stuff that was in my mind, because I had watched it and I know what it was. And I never watch that stuff. And that's the main reason why I don't, because I don't want other things outside of me to influence the way I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. Yes, of course I have opinions on things, but it's not really important. So psychologically, what are the things that you're doing? What are the books that you're reading? Who are the people that you're having conversations with? Are the conversations positive conversations? Because everything that you're doing as you're initially getting through this phase, as you're going through your initial start, to me, has to be something that's either building up your vibration or something that's sustaining it. So this is where the question comes in: is this something that's helping me as far as to raise my vibration or sustaining it? If it's not doing one or the other, to me, when I was in my early stages, I didn't do it. That's why I would go outside and I would do grounding in my backyard. I would go down to the bay close to where I live, because I live close to the Delaware Bay. And I would go down there and stick my feet in the sand, and I would walk in the ocean, or the bay, whatever you want to call it, because it's partially ocean, bay, whatever. It's a combination of a couple of things. But I appreciate y'all. Psychologically, it's because we have to make sure that our minds are right, because the battle is going to be a battle within your mind. One of the tricks with our mind that I found is that throughout your process, you're going to think that you're more healed and you're in a better state, or you're further along than what you are. You know, and it's going to be because you're going to start feeling better. Just because we start feeling initially better. Just think about it in terms of if you have a serious illness or serious condition on your body, like a break or cut or whatever. Yes, it's going to start feeling better over a period of time, but the total and complete healing might not be for another couple of weeks after that. So it's just all a part of a process. I'm going to end there because I've already been 20 minutes on YouTube. I appreciate everybody that tuned in, and oh, thank you, Renee. That's in on the YouTube part. Boy, I got some edits to do on that, baby. But I got an edit to do on that, baby. But I appreciate that. So what I'll do is I'll just stay in the TikTok.